Hey.
Hey.
How are you, Josh?
Better. I hear you. It's clearer now. I can actually hear
Yeah.
your voice is matching your mouth. So it's like, hey, cool. The lag is not. It is completely just. It was. I think it was on my. I moved it just slightly. I'm in that. I guess I was in the weird spot where the boxes just said nope. The signal just says absolutely no. So now it's working. So Magic is going to keep it right here, and hopefully nothing terrible happens. So hopefully. So I'm going to ask this again. And I'm sorry about this, but who did you like? You were big into YA when you started. So who did you read?
So I read, and unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the author now. Maze Runner, Hunger
Okay,
Games, Susan
Susan
Collins,
Collins. Yeah,
and Twilight also was a big one for me.
Twilight.
And Twilight, yes, because I remember it was a book that I bought for my twin sister when we were, I think, for our 13th birthday or something like this. And yeah, I remember like I was wow, and I couldn't stop reading it, and he only gave it to her the next day. Yeah,
So
so mhm.
yeah, I used to work at a bookstore a long time ago, and I wasn't familiar with I was familiar with some aspects of YA, but not all of it. So I picked like something that's a little bit more towards girls, and it was actually the Twilight series is what I read. She has a good voice. Like the one thing
Mm.
Stephanie Meyer does incredibly well is the voice of the character on the inside. You can hear it, and it's really it really comes off, and it feels very authentic.
Yeah.
And it just I like there are things about that story that drive me nuts. but but the baseball
I
scenes,
wonder why.
yeah. Well, to be honest, like there's two things about that whole series. Well, my favorite scene in the first book is the baseball scene. The baseball scene's amazing,
Mhm.
right? But I was expecting like that, like she did a Shakespearean thing in the last book, but I was really expecting the final battle to be like this big epic thing, and I kind of felt let down that didn't happen.
Actually, I don't think I read or watched the last part, so no spoilers,
I
please.
won't spoil. I won't spoil a word.
We'll get to it at some point, but yeah, I agree that like the first thing is like so that's what did the trick for me. And for example, same thing with Maze Runner. And I think for Hunger Games, I like the first two books, and then third one is like it's disappointing. So yeah, I'm mostly into like the first books of popular YA trilogies. But yeah, like obviously, I remember when I was already in my teens, there was this tendency. People were like, "Oh no, mainstream sucks," and it was not only about books and stuff. Like in indie school, and that it had the whole context back then. But I was like, I like mainstream for a reason. Yeah, so that's kind of my take on it, and it's
Ju-
obviously a big influence.
well, just because it's mainstream doesn't mean it's bad. Like, okay, so right
Oh,
now for YA, I'm reading Marissa Mayer. So I don't know if you've read any of the Cinder stuff or
no, not yet.
she's really good. She's really, really good. I also am interviewing her for the podcast, so maybe there's a little bias there. I'm not gonna lie. Victoria Aveyard, she's a little dry for me. At least for the second book, felt very dry. I get kind of why it was that way. So I'm hoping the third book, when there's that click with the character, like that growth moment, it
Yeah.
changes up just a touch. But no, I mean they're popular for a reason because
Totally.
they hit a certain expectation and they tell compelling stories anyway, right? So there's nothing and really an audience that likes your stuff, that's not a crime.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also think that that's one of my biggest it's not like it's my motto, but it's something that I love to tell other writers. It's just like popular authors have their audience and their niche. There you can never run out of readers and run out of like the niches. So basically whatever you write, if you do your work authentically and you write well and you tell compelling stories, you will always find your readers or your readers will find you. And that's kind of how I like to approach it. And yeah, it works for both. Yeah, can you hear me okay, by the way? I think we disappeared again for a second. Yep, I think yeah, we lost the connection
That's
here a little bit.
messed up.
Now I can hear some of your voice, but
My
not. Yeah, I can see you well.
so it completely. So we're looking like that whole answer completely like disappeared on me. It's like I didn't hear a damn
Okay,
thing.
I can repeat it.
So
I can repeat it because it's the point that I'm very passionate about.
yeah, go right ahead. You can repeat. So here okay. So okay, we'll just do this right now. We'll just say this right now live on the air. If this doesn't work, yeah. Um. How do I put this? How do I do this? So if this goes down, are you free for a little bit today? Like still a little longer today? Because what happens if this fails, I can go to somewhere else where there is a better connection and we can make sure I get the
Okay.
conversation there.
Yeah.
So if this strikes out, this we strike out again, I'll do like a handshake. Give me 30
Totally.
minutes.
Yeah. I'll. Yeah, I'll have like another couple hours free. So yeah, that works.
Yeah. No, I really so repeat the point. But we'll just do that. We'll just say that now because if it goes like that again, it's like, okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, my point here, and I was saying that it works for both popular authors, and this is something that I like to share to someone who's just starting out, and it's also relevant for me. If you're good at what you're doing, if you tell compelling stories, there is no lack of readers and niches like that you can write for. And basically, your reader will always find you. Like you will always find your reader, and your readers always will find you. So and that's what I like about it. And there are so many different styles, so many different genres, and each of them has like this amazing millions and millions of people who read it. And it goes for every like separate author as well. So if you're doing your job well, you will get your audience. Yeah, and that was my point. I think it's very important for people to understand. Yeah, so there's no lack. It's a myth of lack of readers and stuff.
No, it totally no, absolutely. Like what it's about is you're writing the story you feel compelled to tell. Like that's ultimately what it's about because at the end of the day, what else are you doing? Like if you're not having fun, if you're not telling your story, then why are you here?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think for me, it's just a big part of my journey in general. And also kind of like starting to understand that something, okay, what is it that I'm want to tell through fiction? Because I think I cannot tell it in real life. So probably at some point in the future, I will get to telling my own stories that are more like real life based because yeah and I'm all about fantasy, but even now I'm starting to understand that I've made a long journey from the place of, oh, who can I pretend to be liked, to actually, oh my god, like what me as I am, and the story is just like as is. My stories, they're interesting and I have confirmation, but also I believe in it myself. And I think this has been like my growth, and I hope that I will grow further with this and with different stories and books that I write as well. This is a little bit for my personal evolution.
Absolutely. Like okay, so in one very real sense, like you're not like in one sense, you're not saying anything new because like every story has been told, all of them, right?
Yes.
But that's not we love stories as our nature because our stories communicate how we see and perceive the world.
Hmm.
And what you see, what you first off, you're absolutely an interesting person. You're a person, therefore you are interesting because
Yeah.
everybody's got a cool little story. But the second thing is, I think the hard part is what do you care about? What do
Yeah.
you absolutely care about? Because I think when you're younger, it's like I got these really cool ideas, and then you get okay. I'm afraid to ask this question because you might hideously beat me. How old are you?
I'm 27.
I'm 40. So so I got to when I hit your age, I realized that I wasn't going to be here forever, and I had to figure out what really mattered. That's when I hit
Yeah.
your age, right? God, I feel old. Jeez. But
My ex-husband is 41, so
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not too old.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, no, it's totally like what I mean. It's fine. Like it's just what happens in life is what happens in life is you hit a point of evolution that your voice, your care, your it matters. And then the second part is, well, what matters to me? Right? Because that's super, super important because that's the stuff that really conveys in your story. Like for me, when I write a story, I love figuring stuff out. I still do. Like one of the cool, like that's why we're talking, because I was like, well, I have this really interesting person on TikTok doing silly things on it, right? That's right, that's right. And it's like, okay, who is this person? Because that's fascinating to me. But even how the world works, like that innate curiosity of what happens if, that why not? I still care about that even at 40. It's still a big part of who I am. And you, so I hit that point where it's like, okay, I know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what do I care about? What do I want? Where am I going? And you're thinking about that more, and then you become more you. And now you're able to tell better stories because more of you's going to hit the page.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so true, everything you say, Josh. And it kind of really resonates. And it makes me want to think that I have endless work in progress
Oh, I always.
projects. I have one that I published online. And this is basically, it's a very teenage me growing up kind of story. It's called The Nymph of the Ocean Forest. And it was something, it was the very first thing that I ever wrote. And it's also something that I have some measurable success, meaning response from
Huh.
the audience, because it's been maybe like 4 or 5 years since I published it online. And I know that this is not kind of traditional publishing because I just did with Wattpad. I didn't know nothing
Well, there's
about.
nothing wrong with Wattpad. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with Wattpad, by the way. I think Wattpad's a cool place to build an audience.
Yeah, and it was just so good for me. And even to like, I keep receiving comments and likes on it every week now, and it's been 5 years, which is fascinating to me. Like more than like 40,000 people saw that book, and for me this is one of the first, like, okay, cool. It's not that it was the only reason why, oh my god, no, I gotta write, because I had everyone is looking for validation, right? And I got a little bit of mine on Wattpad, but I also know that I have to grow up a little bit more. And the next story that I'm currently editing and I'm about to complete, that has a more dystopian angle to it. That this is what I want to just go the very traditional route with it. I will post about it on TikTok. Yeah, there is no
No,
doubt.
no, there's again, that's that like trappings are fine. Like I wrote an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology mashup.
I love Greek mythology.
Me too. But here's the thing. Alice and Pandora are the same story. And when I realized that, it was like I had my story.
Yeah.
It told sense to me what I could do with it, and I'm having a blast with it. And it's an epic poem too, which is kind of like a weird little thing. Right? So, um but the thing about that is it's like again, it's not like that story has kind of been told. I mean, I'm just basically taking two versions of the same story and mashing them together to tell another one, right? But it's what I bring to it. What do I want to say about this?
Yeah.
Right? And so there are parts of me in the story too, and I'm talking about all these weird and wacky little things because and I'm having fun because it's Alice, because Alice is just like a silly character to have fun with.
Yeah.
But all of which to say is like the trappings. You can like once you realize kind of who you are, then you can really start to have fun. Right? You can be. I have an absurd sense of humor. I think you probably picked up on this. I don't take myself
I
that
love your
serious.
sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do that. I have all kinds to put all kinds of random, fun, stupid stuff to amuse myself because right.
Yeah.
Say that little things I can put together, little things I can put together, and I can have fun and still convey the story. Let's see if it goes. Not in like 30 minutes. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Hold on a second here. You're still here? Still here?
I can still hear you.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you disappeared a little bit. I could still hear you, but yeah, I can see you again.
Woohoo! Yes,
Oh,
stream connections. Whew. This is what I think I'm permanently doing this at a coffee shop. That's what I think I'm permanently doing from here on
okay.
in.
No worries.
But no, we can keep talking. We're still going. So I mean, might as well keep. But yeah, like that's it. Like you're like whatever you want to do, like whatever you want to have, like what's fun for you. because I think I'm a big, again, I am a big believer in it has to be fun. You have to love what you're doing, and you don't necessarily have to love the character, but you have to respect it. I learned that one the hard way. So
Okay. Yeah. And I think for me, it's also very important because it was a conversation that started through a bunch of videos on TikTok recently. And it's not only about respect, because probably it can happen. But for example, for me, um, like abuse is not acceptable, and of course, like there is abuse in fiction, and that's okay. But even, for example, like abuse is not hot. That was the conversation. And I kind of, it was very like important thing to me, because that's what I see, for example, in a lot of book talk. And for example, one of my like main characters in my first book is, she's a female. And then, but the book I'm now writing, it's about like the main guy, it's a teenage boy. And there's like, we're not even going into anything romantic at this book, like, because it's about different things. But even, okay, when you are writing about the female character, and there is, okay, romantic interest, and how it's, if it's coming of age type of story, it feels like a lot of people on book talk, they tend to take some of these stories into very unhealthy directions. And which is fine, because we all write from either experience, so it can take all different shapes and forms. But presenting something that's very like abusive, and it can be all like, oh my god, like that, like this guy, if it's not healthy, like it just, for me, it's important that people who write young adult, that they should take responsibility of the younger audience who's reading it as well. And so like there should be some balance, because you are teaching these people something. And that's what a little bit is a little bit concerning to me about, yeah, because of course, then now, yeah, kids would go and watch Game of Thrones, and they will like, yeah, pick up on some stuff from there too. But yeah, it's just a very sensitive topic for me in general, because sometimes disguised as something soft and just like, oh my god, this like compelling like romance narrative, it can actually hide in it something that young people don't really need to read. Yeah, so that's another point.
okay, ooh, that's a big one to unpack. Let's where I think we'll both agree for sure, 100% agree. I think especially like younger audiences, one thing, again, just I'm older slash wiser, shrug, right? Right, shrug, right, shrug. Um, when we're younger, we lack confidence. And when we're not experiencing certain things, we tend to lack confidence. We tend to latch on to things that aren't necessarily healthy for us.
Yes.
And it's and that tendency, we have to outgrow it. Like we have to basically get to come to Jesus point where it's like, okay, I ain't taking this shit no more, right? Right. That's basically it. As you see, I pretty much speak it like I see it. So just right. So, and I say it like that because um it's a very fine, and this is where it gets tricky. It's a fine line because what is abuse for some people is not abuse for others. There are some things that are generally that we can see it's absolutely 100% abusive.
Yeah.
Like, give you an example. For example, I have a sister, so she will bop me on the arm, and I will
Yeah.
tickle her if she does it.
Yeah.
Right? Now that's just a brother sister thing. Now somebody I talked to about that, like because again, it's not meant to be violent or abusive. Just just so we're horsing around kind of thing. Someone saw that as a form of abuse because tickling was traumatic for them.
Mhm.
Now I wouldn't do that to them because for them, because that's the other important thing about abuse. It's not always the act of what's being done to you. Now again, there are some things. There's 100%. No doubt, like this is just a
Yeah.
violation of everything. But some things are trickier that way. Some people just it's not necessarily it's knowing where your boundaries are, and this is where it gets really really tricky because again for some people, right? For some people, right? They again the tickling thing. We'll just use an example. It's just humor. It's harmless. It's just nonviolent thing. But some people it's abusive. They feel like
Mhm.
it's abusive. Different. So everybody's standard in line is different
Yeah.
too. And I think I so I think again, that older / wiser thing, the
Hmm.
concept of boundaries I think should
Yeah.
be there at all times, and what's a healthy boundary and what isn't a healthy boundary. And if you don't feel comfortable with something, you need to speak up first and foremost. But the second thing you need to do is, yeah, it's not healthy. Then at that point, it's incumbent on the other person to stop.
Yeah.
But again, that's what I think when it comes to abuse, that's an important thing. That's a very important thing, because there are, again, some things absolutely are abuse. Some
Yeah.
things, it depends on the person. And I'm very, barring some very, very specific examples, I'm very careful about what's saying, like, what is or isn't abuse. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and it also, because I was trying to see, okay, how do I put it, because like they're all of, and I'm not saying that there should be no violence in fiction, because there will be, and
Oh,
probably,
absolutely. There has to be. There has to
yeah,
be. There has to be. There has to be
I,
a clear violation somewhere. All right.
yeah, either
The end.
violation on violence, or like violent, yeah, that takes a form of violence. And one thing that probably can clarify, that's something that can be very impactful. I would say that what I see, at least like from book talk videos or in some novels, it's narcissistic abuse. And it
Yes.
comes, with this form of, uh, darker, unavailable personality, who is possessive, who like gets into anger, depression, like this type of stuff. And this is something that people can't really, unless they have experience with this, like differentiate in real life. And if it's something that they see, so this is actually probably what I meant even more, because it's very easy to fall into this trap. Okay, it looks attractive, but like it's not. It's not attractive.
Well, no, it's so okay. Personal thing, right? I like helping people, so I realize, like, for me, like, I have to be very careful with how much I want to help people, because I like, again, the knight in shining armor thing. Hey, I can solve a problem. I can be that super. That is very dangerous with certain, because some people, again, if you're talking about narcissism in particular, they don't want to be fixed. In a lot of cases, they're aware of what they're doing. At least on some level, they're aware of what they're doing. And the narcissist wants attention. The narcissist wants to, and they're willing to devour you to get it. And that's the really dangerous thing about them. So it's a very and it's just, but it comes on to, there's two fronts to that. The one front is, yeah, they do exist and they're real people, but the other thing too is, this comes back to self-esteem at the end of the day,
Yeah,
right? It's about what you, and actually this isn't just relationships, it's business, it's life. It's about what you're willing to tolerate.
yeah,
And I think that's the, what, more than talking about abuse, what I wish fiction did more was give people a sense of self-worth better,
yeah.
because that's, because, okay, like I think maybe, and this is kind of, maybe, again, maybe you disagree. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. It's what I do. I'm sorry.
It's a conversation.
Yeah. It's just, one of the things I've noticed is, and this is with a lot of artists, right? Like, when we first when we first do this, we seek validation to some degree, like getting that published stamp, that this, that. The truth of the matter is, though, you're already great. You know what I mean? Like, you already have now. Again, I'm not saying you can't. There aren't things you can't. No, it's thing where, yeah, it's one of those, when you look, it go again. Did it go
Yeah,
again? Did
but
it
you're
go
back.
again?
You're back,
Oh,
and you have
back.
a
Yes.
compliment. The stirring and
Yes.
thought-provoking conversation.
Yeah. 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 I'll take it. I'll take it. It's, you already have everything you need to succeed. I truly do believe that. Like, you have talent, you have drive, you have ambition. You've already finished a book. That's a huge well, and I don't care where you did it. Right? That's awesome. but the thing about it is, stupid thing. The thing about it is, now that worth? What's that really
Yeah.
100% worth? A lot of people will tell you, well, there's no money in writing. That's not actually true. There is. But
Yeah.
are you willing to go get it? Are you willing to take the beat? Like, that's the thing. Like, that's the what I've learned in this life is you are worth whatever whatever you can imagine, you can become that.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to put in the work, the time, the effort, and the sacrifice to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, that doesn't mean it's going to magically work out the way you want it to. But could you imagine if everybody believed that they could actually get what they want?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd be a better world.
I think so too, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's very because I really like this conversation, and just like summing up that previous point before we go to the next one is, this is the one thing I would like to remove from young adults completely, is romanticizing narcissistic relationships. Like that's, yeah,
Yes.
and
No, no,
like
no. I know. Actually,
that's how I like to sum up that part.
no, 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 no. I agree with you. I think though that word that and this is where I'm just going with it. The narcissism, the reason why it's so prevalent is because I think it's a self-worth
Yeah.
thing. Right? There's always going to be some degree of narcissism in this world. It's just the way it is.
It just,
But
yeah.
but recognizing like, okay, is this healthy? And that's the first step. The second step is encourage people. I don't need to be here.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? I think like with young adult, like it's part of the reason why I'm 50-50 on the whole chosen one formula in young adult,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes like you look at God, I think I want to say Bella. I don't know if that's right. Like Stevie Meyer's main character. I can't remember her name. I think right.
It's Bella. Yeah, it's Bella.
Yeah, it's Bella. She's kind of like she's kind of like that fluky, lucked in, and kind of and if you want to talk about kind of an abusive relationship, that is a very very abusive relationship in the second, especially in the second book. It's super abusive, right? It's like right, but like it's so. Blame Don Quixote. Don Quixote is what you need to blame for this. That's what you need to blame for this.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
classic book. It's the original guy goes to save the girl, and the girl is got no, like, there's nothing really said about her, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's like she's a trophy. Like literally when you read the book, like she's the trophy. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. It's kind of, we're in a new like age for like where we need to be like, we can do better. We can be better as an industry, if you can call it industry.
Yeah,
And
no,
there's
it
also
is.
one thing that, like, to your point, what if we all believe that we can get everything that we want? And it actually is a very interesting point, because it goes into my self exploration, some of my personal beliefs that you can, and I don't really like this label, but like called law of attraction. If what you are putting out is like the
Yeah.
need, like you're needy, you want this, like success as a writer, fame, recognition, etc. but but by feeling needy and feeling the lack of it, you will only attract the lack of it. Because, and I
Yes.
can go into a very long conversation on how this works, but this is something that I personally believe in. And it's very hard, because okay, but how do I want it? Like you first start from the place of not having it. That's how you know that this is something you want, right? So yeah, no, there's a very tricky one, but kind of knowing your self-worth, it not only in a relationship in real life or in fiction, but just you as a creator, you as a creative person, you as a writer. And this is what will attract your team, and like the team being your publisher, agent, etc., and also your readers. Because people are not attracting to something needy. People are attractive to, yes, like I know that what I have is pure gold, And yeah, so I believe this should be, I think, and it doesn't cancel out that you need to take like all your sacrifices, like take action, because the inspired action, nothing will happen without it. But it's just my belief that you also need to have this component that unless you feel like you were worthy, and like other people won't believe you because it won't be authentic. And just like in the stories you tell, this is also a story when you're trying to get to a certain place, like career wise, being published wise and stuff. So I think it's also very important. You need to be at a place where I am worthy of all of this success, yeah, whatever it is for you, whatever it means for you.
Yeah. And to add to that point, I've said this, we all do what we want to do, always. But
Yeah,
what people have to understand is there's a whole bunch of wants you're serving. For example, let's say you have a book you want to do. Like say you want to get published, but
yeah,
then let's say you have a zillion different stories in your head,
yeah,
right? And you freeze. Do you want to be published? What want are you serving staying still? Right? Because
yeah,
there you are serving a want. You what and in that particular case, probably the expectation of what comes after, right? You pick a story, you write a story. Do you
yeah,
now, right? How do you now today it's a little bit trickier, but like you mentioned
yeah,
Wattpad for you, right? There's traditional publishing for the big five. There's like smaller presses. There's Kickstarter. There's indie publishing. There's Unbound. There's a lot of different ways to be published today, and there's a lot of different audiences. So maybe what I would say today is, okay, so you got this YA dystopian coming of age story. Probably traditional publishing is still the best way to go in that particular genre. But let's say you wanted to do like a steamy or romance. I don't know if that's your thing or not. That's right, but I'm just saying. Let's say that was something else you wanted to do. You might want to do. You might say that traditional publishing might not be the right way there. Like there, it might be like indie, because indie you can kind of control your distribution and release times and all that stuff. And there's because it's a different audience, right? So there might be more of a research component of what do I want to write? Where do I think this best fits? I think that's a necessary step today. But let's
yeah,
say you figure that out. Okay. So let's say Simon and Schuster is where you want to be published, because Simon and Schuster is a pretty big reputable house. So
hmm,
you're like, who? So you'll go to a book you really like maybe Maze Runner. Who's that person's agent? Go see if you can get your work into that agent, right? And then go Susan Collins. Who's their agent? You're gonna go and then you're gonna submit to their agent, because why not, right?
yeah,
And then you go through that process. And then one day next thing I know Xeni Quinox is rich and shameless, and I can say I knew her when, right, right.
and we'll do a follow-up podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be like, so you're gonna, and I'll be like, so at this point, it's like, and then, well, next time you might do a podcast, I might actually be in wherever your neck of the woods is. I'm planning on traveling like spring, summer next year.
Hmm.
So I have this idea of doing like an ice cream / bar across the country and do my podcast through it as well.
That's a really neat idea.
Yeah. Who doesn't like ice cream? And by the way, so like take mint ice cream and Bailey's and put it together. It's fantastic.
I love chocolate ice cream. I like everything chocolate. If it doesn't have chocolate, it's like not a dessert for me. No, yeah, but that's my preference. I think you froze again for a bit, probably shocked by my chocolate comment.
I did. I did. I did. I did for just. I froze for your love of chocolate. But I was gonna say it was dark chocolate or milk chocolate.
Both, either, depending. Yeah, so I can eat both, not together, but depends on my mood.
No, that would be amazing if you did that. That would be like epically like how did you do that? But
Okay.
no, I so from a health standpoint, dark is generally what I do. Like I generally do dark myself. I have a sweet tooth myself. we have a place I'm in Calgary, Alberta. There's a legitimate chocolate factory that does world class chocolate. Like it's world class. Like you'd have a problem. Like I give you the catalog, your husband would contact me, go, why did you do this? You enabled her. You enabled her, right? So
Well, luckily, like I said, he's an ex-husband, so he doesn't have a say in this. By the way, hello from the nearby province. I'm in BC.
Oh, you're in BC. Cool.
I'm in
Whereabouts?
I'm in Vancouver and UBC. This is where
Oh,
I
I know.
live.
I know exactly where you are. I used to live in Vancouver. So
Nice.
I lived there for about 6 months, and then the pandemic happened. I was going to break into the movie industry there, and then
Okay.
we, and then we had like literally an act of God. So
Well, everything happens for a reason. I came to Vancouver 3 weeks before the pandemic. Then COVID hit, and I never left Vancouver since in Canada.
no, so I left. I left because and it's interesting. I made the decision to leave because I wanted to see my family during. I didn't know what it was going to be like. It's like, but I knew it's like it might be a long time before I can travel again,
Yeah.
and I decided to go. But it sounded like you had things set up to kind of pursue your career you were doing in Vancouver, so you decided to stay.
Yeah, it's what made sense for me, and that alone, like my life story of how like my life unfolded during COVID. I could write a story about that alone, just because I was quarantining with a new boyfriend and in a different country, because I'm not from Canada originally. I live here now. Then I had, during that time, my partner first discovered that his father is not his father, and we went on a trip throughout to Alberta to actually meet him for the first time, and I met his father at the same time as he did. So like, it's a very interesting story. And then I had a COVID baby. Yeah, so it's a very, yeah. So like I could write about this. I could write, yeah, a book about what happened to me during COVID.
That's all good. So son or daughter?
Son.
Nice. And you just lit up when I just mentioned him. So it's like it's love of your life. The real love of your life is your son. I can totally see it. And you're
I know
actually blushing just a touch with
I'm
that.
lucky because just because, yeah, he's wonderful. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
handsome. Probably he takes it after me.
It's all good. Congrats. Congrats. No, I just bring that I just bring it up because it's just like no, like it was interesting. It was my second apocalypse. First one was when I was 27. It was a more personal one, but
Okay.
it was nice. So it hit me. It hit me differently. Like when you go through a very extreme situation the first time, it's shocking. And you kind of just ride the waves a little. Like
Yeah.
you're not happy exactly, but you're there, and it's like you're not rattled the same way. It's just like I've been here. I kind of know what to expect, and just I have evolved ish.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So yeah. So if you ever do come to Alberta again, in Calgary, and if I ever do get to meet you that way, or maybe I come meet you, yeah, I can meet you that way. I'll show you the chocolate place. I'll enable you. Does that sound like a deal?
Sounds
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was about, I think it was about a month ago. I had this, oh my God, book talk is great, but I want writer friends in real life. And whenever I was like, okay, you're from Vancouver, I was like hunting down people. Okay, if there is a book talk meetup, please include me. So I actually haven't met anyone in Vancouver like through book talk yet. I know
Vancouver's
there's a bunch of people.
Vancouver's kind of tough. There are pockets, but their writing groups have kind of disorganized. Like this is the other thing too. Like because this is okay. What part of the world are you from? I imagine like I think Russian, Croatian. I think something along
Yes.
those lines.
Yes.
Right. Right. So your culture has seen it all. Our culture is young in comparison and hasn't seen shit in comparison to what you guys have been through.
Hmm.
So it's scattered people a lot harder here because I don't think North America by and large got the same. It's not the first time Russia's seen a plague. It's not the first time Croatia's seen a plague. It's not the first time Europe's seen a plague. But it's the first time North America has really been hit like this in a long time. So they don't have the long memory of what that was like. So you saw everybody and their mother panic here because
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, because they've never been through it before. It was like their first time. Whereas your
Yeah.
culture is like, well, I'm going to grab some booze. In your case, maybe some chocolate. I'm going to play with the boyfriend for eternal because we got nothing but time, and I'm just going to ride this out. Yes, that's it, right? Because it's different, right? Because culturally, it's a very different thing. So Vancouver, even before,
Yeah.
there's definitely some. I mean, I could definitely help you meet some people. The only question I would have for you is would it be like just for people to interact, or like people like that share similar goals to you? Like what are you looking for? Like when you're looking for writer friends, what are you looking for?
I think similar goals would help. And of course, there must be this, human connection.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it needs to be an interesting conversation at the very least. But actually, it's also connected to the point when we were saying, okay, about goals and writing. And I'll let you know how the two are connected. So, there's a very nice book called Atomic Habits. And one of the points the author James Clear brings up, and it's basically all about routines and how to trick your brain into doing what you actually need to do to be successful for like years and years. And so one of the things that he talks about that I absolutely agree with. So if you are focused on goal, and people who are focused on goals, like these are not happy people. And whereas when you have a routine that works for you, and you have like this one little thing and like 10 little things that support the narrative of you, I'm a writer, you do this one little thing and your brain goes lights up, I'm a writer. And for me, for example, I know that I will be writing for if not every day, then every week, multiple times a week, multiple hours a week, because when I sit down at home or at a coffee shop and I have this printed out, like, like version of my current work in progress. And I do like all these little edits, and I just like, oh my God, I sit, I'm happy. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I will be doing what makes me happy. This is what I'll be doing for the next, like, really the rest of my life. And I think it's also this is an important component of just do whatever makes you happy. Otherwise, you just won't get to that goal. You do around the like querying 1 2 3 rounds, and then like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm unhappy, I'm worthless. But another point that this author brings up is that surrounding yourself with people who actually also support this identity that you are and you want to become. So actually, yes, I think this is not necessarily something that I find I'm lacking, but I would love to be. And actually, book talk for me, I met several like really nice people on there, and I see what they're doing. Like it gives me a sense of community, because yeah, and in real life, that's also would be great. Yes.
No, I totally respect that. I'm kind of looking for the same thing. I'm in Calgary. Like up until the pandemic, I had an incredibly healthy writing community. Now everybody's kind of scattered and doing their own thing. But also, I kind of realized too that maybe one of the big things for me too is and this is just something I just realized with myself. My goals have evolved.
Yeah.
Right, right. I'm not looking for validation anymore so much as I'm looking to get paid. Right, and that's a different. Again, I'm not saying it should be all about the money. It's not. But I again coming back to that self-worth thing, I think what I do, the amount of time and effort I do, it's worth something. I want
Yeah.
to be paid for it, and that's a very broad, like bold statement, but that's what you got to have if you're going to get whatever you're going for.
Yeah.
So the amount of people, there's a lot of people that write for, and it's just for me. This is my own like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever the reason, you good reason for it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? Right. The issue is then what am I doing? What am I doing that what am I looking for? In my case in particular, I want to. This is it. And then when I'm breaking down my wants, there's three very simple things. I want to keep telling stories. I want to meet people like yourself, either here in life and to hear their story, right? And have great conversations with. And I want to find a way to make it so I can make a living doing it,
Yeah.
right? And those are the big goals. Then the little goals are what do I do every day to do these things, right? So maybe, and so I think, and there's lots of people that do really cool stuff on TikTok, but not just TikTok, but Instagram and some. I don't blame you for avoiding Facebook if that's what you're doing. Um,
No Facebook for me.
I don't blame you. I'm 50-50 on it. I kind of want to. I do business there still, but no, like Twitter is more tolerable to me. I'm not saying Twitter's great either, but for whatever reason, Twitter is much more tolerable. I think it's the fact that it's just a tinier. It's a tinier case of people being outraged over shit.
And Twitter is supportive. I think nothing beats TikToks for me so far, but I had very good experience on Twitter. And it's not that I was consistent there. It was also like for my other lines of work, but because I was never consistent about posting. Yeah, and actually that's the thing that's like something I want to mention, that my reason I'm not really on TikTok to promote my book that's already out there, because it kind of like gets my eyes on it
Yes.
any other way. But my first, like, of course I want to get, like discovered or something, but my most important goal, I want to show up. And I think with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 days throughout the last 2 months or so, I showed up for myself every single day and posted a video that speaks to the fact that I'm a writer to the audience. And I made like some very great connections like along the way. So, and that's, I think, like that's a very important part. That's an important part of it. And when you say that you want to get paid for your work, that's interesting that you bring it up, because when I was like goal setting, New York Times bestselling author, it used to be like this for me. But now what do I want to do? And for me, one is I want to be of service to the world, reaching my like millions of readers with my message. And this is where it gets interesting. How can I be of service? I can either really convey some important message that will help people grow. And I think I still a lot of work to do to actually be telling the stories. But at the very least, I can give people a good time and, tell them a good story, keep them entertained, maybe keep them inspired. Maybe they will be like pushed towards something that they want to do. And yes, second, I want to make a living my stories, because I can make a living like any other way, but it's an important part of, bridging. Yeah. So this is what I do. Like, I want to just like bridge this too, not for the lack of money, but for the fact that this is like, I will be doing this for the next 80 years regardless. I might as well make a living like a regular
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I totally get where you're coming from there. No, so would you like a free bit of advice? Like a one little bit? Don't worry about awards. Don't worry about like the best-selling list. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Worry instead about getting yourself out there. Like one of the biggest things I've realized doing this, there's so much you don't control. I think that's a good thing, because listen, I'm nuts. I shouldn't be. I'm barely an adult in a lot of ways. I'm barely an adult. I should probably not be in charge of certain things, and I realize this personally myself. So I'm actually grateful that I'm not in control of certain things. But I realized the really important thing is your job. Ultimately, whatever it is you choose to do in life, doesn't matter what it is, show up and do it. It sounds so simple, but that's really it. That's all you can really do.
Yeah.
I show up, I do the best I can with what I know, and I do it. And you do not control the result. It's the one thing like New York Times number one New York Times bestselling author. I truly believe you can do it. And there are definitely steps you can take to better increase your chances of it. That doesn't mean you're going to
thousands and thousands of New York Times selling author. That's like the good thing about it as well, right?
Yeah, no, it's totally a possibility, right? I'm not saying that, right?
But it's no longer a personal goal. It would be nice to collect that, like, check.
Yeah, no, and that's where I was getting to, right? Titles are nice. Titles are nice, but they'll come as a result of you doing things. Worry about the things you really want to do, and the titles will come. In fact, and then at that point, you can use the titles to get yourself better, closer to that living you want. Like, that's how you do it. And also, when you do this is the other thing too, when you negotiate stuff, titles don't mean anything, right? Yeah. So if titles don't mean anything to you, then you'll have better leverage for actually commanding a price for your work. Well, we'll give you a title. No, I don't
Yeah.
care. Pay me. I don't care. Pay me. You
Yeah.
can call me what you want. I don't care. Right? It's one of those. It's one of those things. I think a lot of people get caught up in prestige,
Yeah.
and that doesn't matter. You're Xeni Quinox, YA author extraordinaire, and already has a fan base of tens of thousands of people. You did that on your own, really, right? I mean, you should think of it like that. You've already done that. So now it's about just going for what you want because you can do it.
Yeah.
And then the rest, shrug. Right, shrug. Listen, I might be more well known for my podcast than my books. And I'm actually very good with that. I have a big mouth, you can definitely tell. Right? So, but that's the important thing. The important thing is I'm chasing my dreams. I'm doing what I want to do. I am trying to seek whatever that happiness is in my life. I'm seeking it. And I'm
Yeah.
not worried about what it looks like to anybody else or what people think about it. I'm worried about
Totally.
what I think about it. You like that. I think you like that.
And that's the only way. Yeah, and yeah, because and I think and I really hope that we're now like in this post-COVID times where more people will get to that point, because we're getting into more, yeah, like the values that were still okay, everyone needs to pursue this and that, like it's all about some prestige. Now I think more people are starting to wake up that this is not the ultimate goal, like at least hopefully. And for example, what you are doing, okay, you say I'm more well known, well, for my podcast, but if you have like and you do have a message, and it's almost like a crime not to share it. And like when you also show up and you talk to different people and different authors and also sharing like your point of view, and like these things, they must be said, people have to hear this. And in some ways it's almost like it's not almost irrelevant like in what, through what channel do you deliver these ideas to people, but you have that. It's almost like it's a responsibility when you have something to share, whether it's like a story in fiction, whether it's something like, you know, like this creative energy like that you've been like, yeah, putting out there like throughout the like I think it's like really hundreds of conversations with people. Yeah, it's very important to share. So like really, yeah, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. One of my favorite story. I don't know. Have you ever read Ray Bradbury?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite. I have a lot. I love his short stories. I love my next book release is going to be a homage to Fahrenheit 451 because I love that
Nice.
book. I'm writing and drawing it. I am terrified because I like this is just like drawing is something I did during the pandemic. I'm not necessarily very good at it, but the fact that I'm not, and I don't want to like feel like in comparison to people who've been doing it for years and years, I still have a long way to go. But the fact that I still have a long way to go actually works in my favor for the way I'm telling this story. So
Yeah.
I'm doing it. So all of that to say, my favorite story of Ray Bradbury's, one of my favorite short stories. I have a few of them, but one of them is called Quid Pro Quo. It's a time travel story.
I don't
So
think I read this one. Yeah.
it's one of his later books, and it basically he travel. So a young man meets an older version of himself, and the older version is warning him that you got to use your gifts. You have these gifts and talents and dreams. And this is a guy that never did it. So he went back in time to warn his younger self to actually pursue his passions.
Yeah.
Quid pro quo is like, if you have a talent, if you have a dream, if you have a goal, the price for those things is to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the price. And if you don't, you will lose them.
Yeah, you will not be happy if you don't use, like that's what I believe 100%. So yeah, like you won't be in a good place if you don't. Yeah, so that's why it's almost like a crime to not share what you have. Yeah, you froze again.
I lost. I I I I lost. I got lost just a little bit.
I can hear you
No,
again.
it
You're still
whatever
frozen, but
reason,
like at least I can
whatever
hear you
reason.
now. Yeah.
it just magically fits right now. New computer, December like 2020. No, I think December or January. That's gonna be my Christmas present. New computer, better adapter, all that stuff. All right, but no, people do it all the time though. Like I said, that want, like we serve many wants and desires are inside us. There's a desire to go for things. There's a desire to not go for things, and they're both. Some people are terrified of expectations. And that's the big thing. Like, and that's the thing. Like when you become successful, you start getting more expectations.
Totally.
Right now, younger me. So this podcast won an award long time ago. When I was first nominated for it, it was, I had that like this feeling of surreality, like, oh my god, this happened to me. Like for the first thing. The second thing was, how did I do it? Because I dealt with my own imposter syndrome, and it's like what I realized is that what the real challenge with success is not succeeding. You can accidentally succeed. It's possible. I'm not saying that everybody does it, but it is possible to accidentally succeed. But to stay in a successful mindset, you have to come to the realization that you're always going to have expectations from other people to succeed and from yourself, because you know you can do it. Right? And what you have to realize at that moment, if you want to succeed, is figure out the steps you took to become that, whatever those steps were, and realize what they are, and keep doing them because they work, right? And this is I think this is the hardest part, is the evolution of what works. It changes as you go, right? Much like an algorithm on TikTok, it changes, and you have to figure out what those things are. I think the only thing I really hate about TikTok, honestly, is the stupid sound effects stuff that they have throughout. It drives me nuts because like I like original audio stuff because I post clips of interviews and things. I'm like, those stupid sound effects, just like that's not real. It's just some silly thing.
And I had some, like, it's a learning curve. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
For the audience.
Yeah, no. So, but and I've seen, like, for you, I saw a post of yours the other day of your most seen through like videos. You just did like a greatest hits of them, right?
Yeah. So like it watched like for how many people watched the entire video, and it is just surprising metric. And because I have a background in PR, I love different metrics. So it's like, oh, it's interesting how, how many people actually saw the post, but how many people cared enough to watch it like until the end. And it's interesting. Since then, I had one, I think it was about 60% of all people who saw this post, and they watched it till the end. I think it was another reaction video, but I don't remember which one it was. But people love seeing me do reactions on different stuff. I don't know.
Well, you have a sense of humor. That's the thing. Like, you do have a sense of humor, and it does come out. Like, it does. People see you having fun. People want to join in. I learned this. My very first book signing, I did everything wrong. Like, absolutely I didn't advertise. I was in this isolated place. It was the worst. But I learned a very valuable lesson that day, and it was this: trying to, because the store was so obscure, and I was just this was me at like flaky Josh, 23 years old, like not knowing what the fuck he was doing. But he learned something very valuable, and this was this. So I had the buddy. This is back in the days when printers were more common. Everybody had a printer. He printed out these giant arrows, and I taped them to the sidewalk.
Okay.
People followed them.
Haha.
And I realized something very, 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 very important there. If you make it fun, people will come. I realized that. It was one of the most important lessons I think I've ever learned in marketing. It's why I like gaming so much, because gaming is all about interaction. And I think so when I do any kind of event or presentation or panel, like I did a Dr. Seuss panel. Right now, it gets even better. It gets better. people would read Sue stuff in all kinds of different voices. You've never lived until you've heard an operatic Cat in a Hat. You've never lived until you've heard a Valley Girl voice for Fox and Socks. You've never lived until, and people, because I gave people permission to play. The first year I did it, I had like 12 people in the room. The second year I did it, it was a packed house. I didn't have enough books. I did not have enough books. By the end, now, if I ever do this again in this place, I'm going to bring a little alcohol, it'll be in the evening, and then I would, and then yeah, I'll bring a whole pile of books, and I'm the prop. This is the other thing too. It's the easiest panel for me to do because I'm just there watching people have fun, and it's all, and I'm just there to help as needed. It's so easy to do, right? And get people to, the moment you get people to start to play, they're in. It's like, and it's true with anything. Once people are in, they're in, and you can take them, and you can take people on an incredible ride. And I've learned this even in advertising. It's like, that's the secret. Get people's attention, make it interactive, make it fun, and people will play.
That's a very good point, and thank you, because I know how I can apply it further, like how I can apply it more in my own life and my writing. And it's also interesting in contrast to what I'm seeing like on Book Talk again, just because it's, for me, it's a very interesting way, like, okay, this is what people are doing right now. The energy of no one is buying my book, it's so hard. Okay, like, it's nice to have, sometimes we all need some sympathy, and like we want something, like someone to commiserate, like, sort of. But this is not the energy. If, for example, if you're thinking you are connecting with potential readers on that platform, this is not the vibe that people want to see. And it's not to say that you should not absolutely share, like, if you're struggling, because that's also another value of the platform. But there should be probably a line, and you should know, okay, what are my goals? Is it only to connect with my fellow writers, or is it for just and writers are readers? This is also like an interesting part. But there should be a line where I do not, like, actually put people off by saying, this is hard, I'm struggling, no one wants. Because when you say no one wants to read my book, I don't get enough interest as I hope I would. Like, this is what you put out again into the, I don't know, universe.
So have you ever heard the expression misery loves company? So the idea is, if everybody's miserable together, there's a certain happiness because everybody's miserable together. But if one person's super happy, because I'm usually that happy asshole, I'm sorry. But when one person's super happy, everybody can't stand, like, especially if you're miserable, you can't stand it. It's like, why are you so fucking happy? Right? And what it comes down to is, there's a misery. Like, there is a default misery saying, yes, would I love more people to buy my books? Absolutely. I was just one available now. But that all said, right, I'm much more, there's two ways to build your brand: the books you're writing and you. How do you want to be with people into the world? Do you want to be someone that people want to be around? Right? And that's important, because we live in a world today where it's no longer, you get to hide behind, even if you're traditionally published, you're gonna have to reach out to readers. Brandon Sanderson's on Twitch. I mean, just honestly, like, there's something, just a reality here. Brandon Sanderson is playing video games on Twitch, right? I'm not saying that that's the way you should do it, but the message is clear.
Yeah.
Reach out, interact, right? Find whatever that authentic version of yourself is, whatever that is, and just, you're willing to share.
You disappeared again, and it's too bad, because this is a very interesting thing for me to hear.
Okay, no, am I back? Am I back? I'm back. Okay.
You know, like this boat in Titanic. Come back.
Okay, so who are you? And what I mean by this is, okay, there has to be, we don't live in an era anymore where you have those luxury of, I don't want to read stupid crap about politics on your platform unless you're a politician. If you're a politician, it makes total sense because that's what you do. If you're not that person, no, I don't want to hear it because fuck that. Right? I don't care. I want to know who you are. I want to know what makes you laugh. I want to know what makes you angry. I want to know what makes you passionate. Like for you, you're talking about narcissism abuse. You want to stand up against that. That's important to you. That's part of your value system, right? But you also have I've seen this. You have a bit of a sense of humor. It's dry, but it's there, right? It's dry, but it's there. You're laughing because it's just like, oh God, stop. No, it's true. You have a bit of a sense of humor. I've seen a couple of your videos. It's like this one is always thinking about something. I don't know what, but she always is. Right? So embrace that a little bit. I'm not saying you have to be like, look, not everybody can be as loud and obnoxious as me. That's my skill, and I'll keep it. But whoever you are, right? It's not just that people are going to connect to your books, they're going to connect to you.
Yeah.
So be that. Who do you want to be online? You have this now. Again, this is a little bit of make believe because we're not in person. I'm not making you laugh in person. I'm not telling dirty jokes to you in person. I'm not doing any of these things that we would get along in person. And I can tell you're like, okay, yeah, we could be friends. I could definitely tell that we would definitely be friends.
We could be friends.
Right, yeah, we definitely would be friends. So, and I say it like that because we can make that genuine connection. Now, if I'm genuinely connected to Xeni Quinox, YA author extraordinaire, it's like, hey, what you working on? Well, I got this, and this. I might pick up a book because now it's not just about me. It's not just about your book. It's about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. That's why the other thing about this show is I get to figure out, meet people and see them for who they are. Right? Yeah, I tell terrible jokes, and occasionally I'm funny, and occasionally I'm silly, and occasionally I say something smart. Once in a while, the universe just goes, hey, yes. But I also get a sense this is an opportunity for people to actually be who themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're marketing, when you're promoting yourself, you're right. There are things people don't want. I don't want a miserable fuck. Right? I don't want to deal. There's one writer, me and her always argue. She just comes on, she just wants to argue with me. And sometimes I just genuinely think she's miserable. And sometimes she's about like I heard some of her points are interesting, but some of them I'm like, I think you've been jaded to death. Like just a little bit of you is just really, really jaded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like, it's a problem. Like because again, who's going to want to be around that feeling? Even though she might be a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing too, right? You might be fucking fantastic. But all of a sudden, right, you come on there, no one's gonna buy my shit, blah 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 blah. Yeah, right. No one cares. And now I don't want to buy your shit because you right. You're laughing because it's true.
There needs to be, like this little TikTok video because that's a very relevant message for people on that platform.
Yeah, you know what? I might just do it. I might just do it. It's like, listen, guys, I don't want to hear about you no one buying your fucking books. I don't care. Blah 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 blah. Like just put me to sleep. Like you want like that's it. Like that's what it is, huh? Tell me about why you love your shit. Because here's the thing, right? You busted your ass with your books. You love your books. Talk about why you love your books.
No one's gonna buy it.
Makes sense, right?
There's also the original audio for people to remix. Oh my, this is so funny and so true.
But it's the truth. Like what impressed me, like I am now going to probably hunt down your Wattpad book. Why? Because you told me a really cool story about it. The fact that it still reaches people even to this day. I think that's incredible. That's a cool fucking thing to say. That's cool. Like, don't like, I don't know, right? Right?
I agree.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And now you're doing another book. You're gonna take on the traditional publishing world, and you're gonna conquer it in the name of Xeni, or maybe you're a little boy, right? You might just conquer it in his name instead of yours. Now that might be the only difference, but you're gonna conquer it, right? And I'm being silly because it, but it also, but that's the point. I did it in a way that's fun, engaging, and interactive, right?
It has to be fun. Yeah, if it's not fun, it's like
Yeah.
not gonna work.
Right. Well, no, it doesn't. Okay, I should. There's a little quality. It doesn't have to be necessarily fun. It has to be genuine. It has to be genuine, right?
Mhm.
If you're, by the way, if anyone listening, if you are naturally a miserable cunt, right? If you're naturally just miserable, don't like. I know that sounds terrible the way I just said that, but if you're naturally that miserable, maybe you shouldn't change it too much, but try to do it in a way that at least is entertaining. If you're gonna be miserable, be entertaining about it. Be a comedian.
Miserable can be fun as well. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're miserable, you have to be fun. If you're
yeah.
not, no one's gonna want it. Like again, going back to like, no one's gonna buy my book. That's not fun. Who cares? Right? 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 You're laughing your ass off because you've seen enough of this for a few days. Like you get to now. You know, it'd be funny if a guy actually was trying to give away his books on the street, right? And they just robbed him. Like that would be funny.
Yeah.
Right? That would be funny.
Yeah.
Right? It's like how someone just show up and just like just like take his corner. Right?
Yeah.
Right? That you could have some fun with that, right? It's like I'm just trying to sell my book. I'm just trying to make a living. Right? Maybe you run off that guy and he comes back with friends and he just like and then you get beaten and then they just take his books and
Yeah, that's very ridiculous thing to imagine, but
no, it's not ridiculous, right? But
that would be fun.
again, it's about making it fun, right? Again, it's silly, but isn't that a much more entertaining way of saying no one's buying my book? They're stealing them instead, right? That would be that would at least like you'd be like, okay, that made me laugh. That actually made me laugh, right? See?
Oh my. Yeah, totally.
So, and again, I have a natural sense of just the absurd. Like okay, so there's this comic artist. I do comic books too. She's got like she's one of legitimately the sweetest people you'll ever meet. But her scowl, the first time she's just naturally does these scowls online, like just as a thing. The first time I saw it, I just was like, you're gonna take my lunch money, aren't you? So if I do when and if I do meet her in person, what we're gonna do, she's American. She's going to shake me down. We're going to see a picture of me shaking me down, right? From lunch money. But it's a two-part joke though, because she's American. So she'll be shaking down my loonies and toonies. So she'll scowl again because she'll just be stealing my Canadian money, right?
Oh my Josh.
I'm silly. Like I'm silly. Like you get like I'm silly, but it's entertaining silly, right? It's harmless fun.
Your
right?
style.
Right? But it's harmless fun. And people would look at that so okay, you made my day, or okay, that was funny, or okay, that was stupid. Okay, I got a reaction and it's not boring. And again, it's genuinely me. Like you wouldn't pull that off. That's not you. But I could pull that off because I don't take myself that seriously.
Totally.
So whatever you do all folks stuff.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think you froze again. Okay. No, I think you get here again.
Yeah. So
okay.
Be yourself, folks. Be yourself. Whatever that is, be yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a very great like note for, like to start to wrap up the podcast, because that's the ultimate message, and
Yeah,
it's for everyone, like regardless of what you're writing or whether you're writing at all, or your passion, like your field is somewhere else. This is the only thing you can do: be yourself. Yeah, everyone else is taken. Like they
that's
say.
right. Well, and going back to the message filter, there's only one Xeni Quinox, and what you bring to your stories is what makes your stories sing. So, Ms. Zini, before we wrap, there's two things I want to say before we wrap up, and I'm gonna let you plug your stuff. And that is, first off, thank you for this. I'm sorry about the cutoffs here and there.
That's
Yeah,
happening.
you're fun. You're definitely a lot of fun. And
Cute.
yeah, you want to come back sometime?
Totally.
Yeah. Before, and the second part is, when I do go back on the road and travel and stuff like that, I will make, like I said, if you do come to Calgary, let me know you're in town. I will
Okay.
take you to that chocolate. I will enable your chocolate addiction. Okay.
Trust me, I won't forget this one, so you can count on that.
Okay. Yes. The tears in my eyes. They'd be like, "Give me the chocolate." Then she'll shake me down for that. But that's something down the road.
I'll take
Uh,
the chance.
yes,
Unlike
exactly. Exactly. The second thing is, so you have the book on Wattpad. You have another. Do you have anything else out right now?
no, that's the only one, but
Okay.
I want to fix it soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a link for it where people can go find it?
So the link to my book that's on Wattpad is in my bio, on my TikTok account. And
Okay.
the other one that's currently work in progress, I don't think I will be posting it anywhere other than probably first chapter or two when it's ready. So yeah, but the my first book is up on Wattpad, and you can find it there.
So hold on. So for everybody, I'm doing my trained professionalism stuff here. See, I think that's how you do it on TikTok. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yes.
So go to her TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. She is entertaining. Like, she's got a bit of a dry wit to her, right? But that's just my opinion. She's right. But that's how I met her, and that's how I wanted her to come on the show. I saw a couple of her videos, and she made me laugh a little bit. So I just thought that would I thought she'd be a good guest, and she was. So go check her out right there. And for everybody watching, listening, I do advertising stuff for authors and other creatives. I do words, pictures, audio, and video about your projects, your brand, and yourself. If you're interested in that, folks, you can go definitely check this out right here. And right, you can definitely check it out. And you can also check out everything else I do, which is right there. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing, ladies and gentlemen. This was back and forth, ins and outs. I'm going to, like I said, I will get a stable connection. I promise. Xeni, thank you for coming on my show. For
Thank
everybody
you so
watching, everybody listening. Yeah, no, you'll totally be back. Like I said, and I know I am dead to rights. If you come to Calgary, I'm buying you chocolate. That's pretty much
much.
been set in stone. Yes.
Yes.
For everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.